Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 20 of Celestial Journey. I've been doing some Thaumcraft off camera and I think I managed to create a rift. So you create these once you pollute a chunk sufficiently, and if you look at the chunk we're in, it is very polluted. In fact, all I did was I threw a bunch of cobblestone in here and let it all evaporate off. Do this far away from your base. I had to do it because one of the quests or one of the things it's like, hey, make a bunch of flux in an area and see what happens. So yeah, this is why it's bad. Our runic matrix and the all the stuff that goes around it. But first, I want to get into thaumic energistics a bit. So yesterday, I was trying to figure out how to unlock this the whole time. Like I didn't say anything about it because I figured, we just progress down and sooner or later something would unlock it, right? Well, it turns out the trick to unlocking it is scanning something from applied energistics, but you don't scan the block; you scan the item. So I don't know. I'm sure it's somewhere I have an item, but yeah. When I eventually got around to scanning the items, that's when I learned, or that's when I unlocked the tab. Another thing is apparently you can scan inventories, and if you scan an inventory, it'll scan all the items in it. So I've already scanned most of these, but apparently there's still a few items in that I haven't, learned about yet. So if you store items in chests, just scan them all real quick. Super convenient. I don't know, just like it saves you the time of having to go scan this and this and this and etc. All right, so thaumic energistics. Well, before that, I made this workbench charger. It's if you see right now, our workbench only has 131 V available. That's because it has only the what's available in the chunk. If you put the charger on it, it gains access to all 8 adjacent chunks. So you get like a 3x3 chunk, which is nice. It lets you do more recipes, and I think draining a chunk very low is bad for it for some reason or another. Also, that rift gave us void seeds, which is another reason we need a few rifts to make void seeds, because that's how you make void ingots, and eventually we can make void ingots with Oh no, we can't. There are no. Really? I thought there was a void seed. Void metal seeds. Oh, these probably. Yeah. Wait, how come I didn't see? Whatever. The point is, we have to farm some void seeds off rifts until we can make void ingots. Alright, so next thing I want to do is craft the arcane crafting terminal. That's basically just a regular crafting terminal, except, in this mode. So let's place it on our AE network. So much like how the normal crafting table has room for all these crystals, the arcane crafting, oops, that's a regular one. Arcane crafting table also has room for them, and they go over here. There's also a upgrade card slot, and I think that's where the booster sits. So I'm just gonna steal this one, and I think if we take it, we can craft it with and smelt it apparently. But yeah, we can craft it with an advanced card. So let's get one of those. Should get used to using this terminal more and craft them together. And that goes here. So yeah, once it goes in there, you see the amount of V available goes up dramatically. That's a shame. This doesn't have the JEI synchronized behavior that this does. Oh well. Next terminal I want to make is the essentia terminal. So right now we're not storing any essentia in the AE system, but once we are, this will be how we view and access it. At the same time, we'll have to set up a way to autocraft to do arcane terminal autocrafting at some point. But for now, I guess anything that requires the arcane terminal we'll have to manually craft. So, the essentia terminal. Looks like we have to make these cores as well, but I think I might have some from quest rewards. Alright, so this will, again, it'll display the amount of V we have stored on the ME network, but for now that's 0. There's a couple ways we can store. Either we can put like essentia storage buses attached to these warded jars, or we can use these essentia storage cells. Both are perfectly reasonable options. Personally, I'm leaning towards storing them in the storage, like the digital storage version, because right now, the way the recipes are configured, it takes to make the 4K, it only takes 3 1Ks. Likewise, to make the 16K, it only takes 3 4Ks. Unlike the item storage, right, where it takes 4. So like a 16K only takes 9 1Ks, and I think it goes up to 64. A 64K only takes 27 1Ks, as opposed to where for items a 64K takes 64 1K drives. So this way, it's pretty efficient to use a big storage cells. Each one only holds 12 types of essentia, so we're gonna need a handful of these, but yeah, we can just craft them. Since we can't auto craft these for now, I guess I'll do some manual crafting. It also takes a bunch of Salus Mundus, so I think I'll go ahead and add that to our auto crafting wall here. I wonder, can I combine a arcane crafting terminal into... No, I can't. That's a shame. I was hoping I could get a handheld version of the arcane crafting terminal, but I guess that's not a thing. To start us off, I made 2 64K drives. I'll make more as we go, but I don't have enough Salus Mundus, and the machine I set up for it is slow. So, yeah, these will be the first digital storage on our entire ME network. Everything else has been in chests, or vast majority has been in drawers, but it's just so much easier to store essentia in storage cells than it is in these warded jars. Even though you can kind of think of warded jars as drawers, because they can get like a void upgrade, so they function like void drawers, but they're just so small. Like at 250, if there was like an extra 0 at the end of it, I'd be more tempted to use warded jars, but alas. Now that we have digital essentia storage on the network, I want to store the essentia that we have in it. It doesn't look like I can click it directly into the essentia terminal, so I'm thinking if I put it here on a import bus, that should get sucked in. I think I can take it out this way. Or not. Is this empty? It used to be that you could pull essentia out this way, but apparently you can't anymore. So I guess we'll need a different way to get essentia out, like specific types. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and store all that we have in the network so I don't have to deal with these jars. So right now, to melt items down into essentia, we have our essentia smeltery, but we can improve it in some ways. First of all, we can upgrade the thaumium one to the void one, but we don't have the research or the materials for that yet. So I guess that one's off the table. But the other options are we can improve it with arcane bellows. So I think or no, maybe that's right. It has to connect to it. That looks connected, right? This increases the rate that it functions effectively. We can also attach a auxiliary slurry pump. I don't know if it can go in front. It doesn't look like it. Can it go on top? No, looks like it has to go on one of the sides. And what that means is these arcane alembics that go above, basically that's what it outputs to. We can now have more of them. So right now when we melt an item, it'll, fill both alembics at once. Whereas without the slurry pump, it'll fill only one alembic, even if there are 2. Just having 2 means I don't have to empty them by hand quite as often. Let's see. Next up, we have the auxiliary vent port. And this, can they connect to each other? Doesn't look like it. The auxiliary vent port reduces the amount of flux that gets let into the air, which is good, right? Because we don't want flux in our base. And while there are ways to clean it up, I don't think we have them yet. So I'm curious if I can attach another one to the bottom of this. No, or the bottom of this. No. Okay. So it looks like, oopsies. Whatever. It looks like this is all the sides that we get access to, so we can only have a single vent port. And then by hooking essentia import buses up to the alembics, all I have to do is toss the item to be melted in here. It'll get melted into its slurry form, turned into its essentia form, and sucked directly into the ME system. So we should see it showing up here. That one, I think it has some herba in it and some vidium. And we can see now there's any gas that comes out of the vent port is harmless. Whereas every now and then we probably still see a little purple puff to come out, which is a little bit less harmless. But if we look at the current chunk, yeah, we've added a little bit of purple to it, which we're going to have to clean up sooner or later, hopefully sooner. So with that bit of infrastructure out of the way, I think we're ready to tackle the runic matrix altar thingy-majigger. So first we have to build a multi-block out of the altar and these arcane stone blocks. I think this is what it looks like. And you splash some Salus Mundus on it. Go. No? Does this have to be one block higher? Maybe. Alright, instead of guessing, I'm going to read. Well, I was close. The matrix had to be one block higher. Or, there's a sneaky pedestal sitting down here I didn't see. There we go. So that'll turn into the runic altar, infusion altar thing. Remember when I said there wasn't an altar in Thaumcraft? Yeah, I lied. Alright, so around this we have to place our 4 or any number of arcane pedestals, but you want it to be symmetrical. It doesn't like strictly have to be symmetrical, but you make your life a lot harder by not making it symmetrical. So I'm just going to place the 4 around like so. And next we can start an infusion. So infusions take a few items. They take they take any number of input items. In fact, if we look at the uses here, the total number of items can get quite high. And I'm not sure what the highest one is, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some in like the 20 or 30s. We can click through it real quick. Oh, there's a big one. Yeah, like these creative items, I mean, I'm not going to count that, but that looks like 20-ish, right? And I suspect there's a few more that are in that range. So eventually we'll want our altar to be able to have, you need at least as many pedestals as you have items. So yeah, it looks like this 20-ish is about the limit. But anyways, you need the items on the sides, you need an item in the center. All of these are consumed in the process of making that, and you need to provide it with some essentia. So the normal way is to put the essentia in jars or something, but I just recently suck all our essentia out of jars and into the ME system. So the next way to do it is with an essentia infusion provider. That will pull essentia out of the ME system as needed and provide it to the runic matrix. So let's make one of these. I've created a bit of a chicken or an egg problem for me because to craft one of these, I need some essentia in jars. So I think I'm just going to disconnect you from the ME system briefly so that those import buses turn off, and then, collect just enough essentia of these few types in jars for us to progress. Another thing that these recipes have is something called instability. Instability represents the likelihood that bad things will happen while crafting. So right now this altar has nothing stabilizing it, which means that if we were to craft something that with high instability, there's a very high likelihood that something will go wrong. So if we look at these, it goes up to like moderate, very high, and I think there's even dangerous, which is above very high. And on the low end, it gets down to negligible. Yeah, dangerous is, I think, the highest one. But anyways, because this is low, I feel confident starting it up as is. So we put our essentia in jars nearby and right-click the runic matrix with the caster's gauntlet. We'll see that the essentia should... Did it start? I can't tell. Is it pulling essentia? I have particles off, so I think I might not see it. No, it doesn't look like it started. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, now, yeah, you can see it's pulling essentia in from the jars, and as the essentia reaches the runic matrix, it gets like eaten by it. So we have to wait until that essentia all gets eaten. I think keeping instability at 0 is good. So I guess the altar does have some basic, stabilizing factors built into itself. But anyways, we'll improve its stability later. With that, we've now created the Essentia Infusion Provider. All we have to do is hook this up to the AE system somewhere. And I think it has to be within like 20-ish blocks of the altar. So I don't know, I'll just put it like here for now. We can move it later. And it will, instead of sucking resources out of the jars, it'll now suck it directly out of the AE system. So to demonstrate the Infusion Provider at work, well, first of all, looking at it will tell you the types of essentia in the network. Essentially, it just, it is a provider for all these essentia types. We can once again start up the infusion. I'm doing the exact same infusion again. Maybe it's not in range. Hold on, let's move it a little closer. So There we go. So one thing that happened, because this wasn't sucking up items, we had a instability event, and that knocked the item off the pedestal. That's bad. Apparently it's working again now, so I'll just let it be. But there it goes. It did it again. It knocked the item off. If the instability is particularly high, it can not just knock items off, but it can even destroy the item, and that means you'd have to go fetch a new one, which is obviously bad. So I don't know why this didn't start the infusion immediately, but maybe it was like scripted so that it could trigger that instability event, because I think that unlocked a new research point. Cool. So while I can't fill the glass jars from the Essentia terminal, turns out I can fill files or files from it, which is good because I need these to complete some research tasks, like the one I'm currently doing. There's a couple things we can do to improve the stability of our altar. First of all, we can place stabilizing items around it. These have to be placed symmetrically, similar to the pedestals, and they can be either above or below, or on the same level as the altar. Personally, I just prefer to place them below because it's cleaner that way. They take up a lot of space and you don't have to look at them. So I'm going to dig out an area underneath the altar. Let's see, with a builder, just in void mode, and go. So that should dig out a large, just a large, come on, let me down. Just a large tunnel down here. Or not tunnel, like a large room. And then in this room, I can place these stabilizing items. So as is a theme with the infusion altar, symmetry matters. The center is right here under this glowstone block. That's the central pedestal. And around it, we have some things like the tallow candles and zombie heads. I think in this version of Thaumcraft, the number of objects that can contribute to stability is much lower than it was. And in fact, I'm quite sure I'm well over the limit. But let's see, if I do this, is a positive number good or bad? I'm actually not sure. Let's test. If I move you to here, that's bad, right? So does this number go up or down? It goes down. Okay, so a positive number is good, which means we've done a good thing. Good job, us. To further help stabilize the altar, we have stabilizers. These act kind of as like magnets for those instability events. So like if an item were to get knocked off the shelf, it would instead hit the stabilizer, and I think it gets released as flux, but it's better than your item getting knocked off, right? So we can see our stability is even better now. Limitation of these are that they have to be connected to the pedestals with this redstone inlay, which is, I guess, it's functionally like redstone dust insofar as it, decays over time and yada, 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 like over distance. So, like, this stabilizer cannot, it's more than 15 dust away from that pedestal, so it won't be able to protect it, but it can protect the other 3. So, yeah, with this, our altar should be able to handle relatively, most recipes, perhaps with the exception of the most unstable ones. So let's put it to use. The next thing I want to craft are mana steel seeds. However, you see, mana steel has 8 inputs, so we're going to have to add some pedestals. Now, with 8 inputs, it's getting to the point where it's a little annoying to, right-click one of each of these into the pedestal as well. So let's also automate the process of placing blocks into the pedestals. Well, this turned out to be a handful, and I haven't tested it yet, but when you place down this many wires at once and don't test anything, I can almost guarantee you it won't work the first time around. So ignore the comparators; those are not relevant yet. But I added some pedestals, so are now 12, and on each pedestal is a storage bus. There's also a single storage bus on the central pedestal. The central pedestal is whitelisted and at a much higher priority than the rest. The others are in decreasing priority from -1 down to, I don't know what the last one is. Well, I guess it would be -12, but oh, look at that, I guessed it. That one's -12. So the way it goes is -1, -2, -3, I think, -4, and then -5 starts from this one, I think. No, that one's 7. So this one is 5. 6 is across from it, 7 is here, 8 is there, and you get the point. The idea is to keep it as symmetric as possible, while not knowing ahead of time how many items there are. Basically, if you know ahead of time how many items are, you can achieve perfect symmetry with 8 items. But since I don't know ahead of right, because with 8 items you fill out the sides, like you leave the middle one blank on each one. But if you don't know that there's 8 items going in, you end up putting 4 items in the middle, or 4 items, yeah, and then it goes 5, 6, 7, 8, but that leaves a little bit. Wait, hold on, is that perfectly symmetrical? Symmetry checks along both the X and the Z axis. I don't know which one's X, which one's Z, but the 2 horizontal axes. It does not check on the vertical axis, and there is no rotational symmetry. So I guess we end up filling on these 6 as well as the 2 there. That is still symmetrical as per the rules of Thaumcraft, isn't it? Okay, cool. Anyways, I think this might have a slight negative impact. No, it's still 1.29. Never mind. So as for the way I'm getting the items in here, there's a chest here with a import bus, and I'm pushing the items into it by using the same builder swap trick. So my idea is if I put all these items here and hit the button, we should see that the central item goes into this pedestal. You can kind of see it there, and all the other items go along the edge in the 6 or the 8 slots that I mentioned, and that does appear to be the case. And in fact, let me make a terminal real quick so I can actually more easily see what items there are. Doesn't need to be a crafty terminal, a regular terminal will do. And if I put this, say here, yeah, so now we can see the items that are in the altar. So this way, we only the whitelisted items, the items that we want to go in the center, will go in the center, and all the other items only go on the edge. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So there is one small problem with this, and that is when we run into items, say, I suspect the Draconic Core is a good example of this. The Draconic Core can go either in the middle or on the edge, and that way, if we were to whitelist it in the middle, then it would end up, when we try to craft a particle generator, it might sometimes put the Draconic Core in the center, and that's not good. So I have a solution for that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm not letting you in on the secret quite yet. But anyways, now that we have this, we should be good to start it. And, all right, here it goes. The fluids should be getting sucked from here. I don't know why it isn't right off the bat. Oh, it looks like it's sucking in items already. Oh, it did get them. I didn't see it, huh? Maybe it has to do with my particles being off. Whatever. Anyways, it was able to get the essentia needed. It pulls all the items in, and it completes the craft. Now, at this point, I'm not automatically extracting the item yet either. I can either extract it through the terminal, or I can just go, right-click on the pedestal to get it out. But that's part of the reason why these comparators are here, are to detect when the craft finishes and automatically extract the item in the middle. Next up, let's really put this system to the test by doing a very high instability infusion. The causality collapser can close those rifts that I showed earlier, and they give you a bunch of void seeds in the process. So let's craft it. Now, I think I was planning on holding off on this a little bit longer, but the TNT that goes in the center here, can also be used along the edge for one other recipe. So I think now may as well be when I'll go ahead and let the secret out of the bag. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rename the TNT when I want it to go in the center and leave it not renamed when I want it to stay on the edge. So to rename items programmatically, we can take advantage of the Applied Energistics name stamp. So I think the way that works is we need let me recall this. It's been a while since I've done it. All right, so you make a cutting knife from Applied Energistics and just right-click it, place an ingot in here, and then give the name that you want. So I'll call it center. All right. So by putting that name stamp in a inscriber, all I have to do is drop the item to be named, and it gets programmatically renamed, and then I have an interface hooked up to it so I can add patterns. So now I can have a pattern that says, let's see, it'll be a processing pattern to make a TNT named center. Use a regular piece of TNT. Put that here, and now we can request this. So now if I take this TNT and regular TNT, I can come over to our altar here and say only the TNT named center can go in the center. If I put regular TNT in there, it'll go in the side. It'll go right here, as you see. Whereas if I were to put the name TNT in there, it goes there. I think that's a very clever solution that allows you to put items, effectively the same item in both the edge and the middle. I haven't tested to make sure that the craft actually starts with the renamed item. I'm hoping that this thing is willing to say, I get that you renamed the item, but I'm still willing to use it. If it isn't willing to do this, if it isn't willing to start with the renamed items and it thinks it's a different item, I have a backup plan, but that's significantly more complicated, so I'm hoping we don't have to do that. All right, let's give our causality collapser a chance. So all the components that go into this, I'm manually crafting, like the niter, elementum, morphic resonant, whatever. But when we go to autocraft, I have it configured that it should spit all the items into this chest, and then I'm still manually pressing this button to distribute the items. And let's the TNT is in the center and the rest of the items are they're here. I just for some reason don't, because I have a filter on. Derp. Alright, so here's the big moment of truth. Does it start? It does. Phew. I also checked for now I have to check beforehand to make sure I actually have the requisite resources. But yeah, for some reason it's not rendering the flow of whatever these are called. Blanking on the word. The thing, the resource. Anyways, it's not rendering it, but it appears to be working. So I'm glad that the recipes are not picky about name. Let's see, this is a vanilla recipe. I'm a little concerned still about the custom recipes. Like the ones that are added. I guess I could try this. Let's try a infused diamond next, because I know this recipe is added by like the pack author. I hope these still are not picky about the exact MBT data on the item. But first, let's go collapse that rift. Opening rifts is very easy. Just throw a bunch of stuff into a crucible and it'll open a rift. So let's see what happens when we collapse it. Explosions and a few void seeds. I was hoping for more. Oh look, see, another rift already. That's what happens when your chunk is this corrupted. It's at this chunk is at maximum corruption. So if I want, I can close this rift for more seeds. So basically, each of these things is effectively a way to very quickly farm void seeds. The infused diamond uses even more inputs. You can see it's 8 shards, 8 blocks if I count right. So that's 16 total. So I had to add even more pedestals. I think we're up at 20 now. It looks cleaner this way almost, right? Anyways, let's try to make one. So I've already checked to make sure I have all of these things. I don't know why I can't remember words today. So when I go to craft that, I have to do the same center trick with the diamonds again, because once again, diamonds can go both in the center and on the edge. And I still have to hook up the automatic logic to hit that button for me. But until I also don't know how to automatically hit that. So I like 99.9% sure there is a way. Because if there isn't, then we're in deep trouble. And the pack author would not have designed it to be that way. I know if you just have a mechanical user click it, you run into the problem of the user not having the necessary knowledge to start these infusions. Like all these infusions, well, it doesn't say anymore, but they require a Thaumcraft, like here, they require a Thaumcraft knowledge to start. So I don't think mechanical users can do it. But previously, like Thaumcraft or one of its add-ons has had a way to automatically do it. So I suspect that's still the case. In any event, I'm just hanging out here to see if we have any instability events. I haven't seen any since we've upgraded our altar to be more stable. But I just want to make sure that our stabilizers here can actually properly, soak up instability events when and if it happens. Because eventually I want this to be, I can run it while I'm AFK or doing something else. I don't have to worry about an item getting knocked off the pedestal or destroyed. Because if I'm not around and that happens, then very, very, very bad things can happen. But looks like this is done. Give me that. So I have to make 4 of these because I want to upgrade our charge porter to the advanced one. The advanced one, the main advantage is it holds like 8 or 10 targets as opposed to the single target of my basic porter. Well, we're on our last crystal and we haven't had any instability events yet, but I guess I'll call that a good thing. Our altar can clearly do at least high instability infusions with basically no risk of failure, and plus it says right here, very stable while running the infusion. So yeah, in just a minute it should finish that and we can craft our advanced charge porter. Woohoo, upgrade time. I'm going to leave my basic one in the EMI system just as a backup, but here we go. And then all I have to do is come and bind these to all the various receivers. So now if I want to go to, say, our mob farm in the nether, I don't have to teleport here first. I can directly, once I bind it, teleport to the nether directly. So bind this, and then just by shift right clicking and say, take me to the main base. Or take me back. Anyways, you get the point. While I was here, I noticed something was wrong. We have no levels here. What happened was I had our wither builder turned on, but we ran out of wither skeleton skulls, so there were soul sand pieces blocking the spawning of normal mobs. And then because those mobs weren't spawning, we ran out of essence, which, trickle down effect caused everything else to turn off. So anyways, I just turned off our wither spawner and took out the soul sand that was blocking it, and this process has started up again. It'll take it a while to, fill out all the buffers that are now empty in all these spawners, but it'll get there. In any event, let's wrap up this episode here. I'm glad we've accomplished what we did, especially with this infusion altar, but we still have a long ways to go in Thaumcraft. I think our next most pressing matter is look at all that flux we've released into these chunks where we're working. Like, there's a lot of flux in some of these. We got to do something about that. So I noticed we have unlocked the research about it. We just have to actually do the thing. So I think that's where we'll start tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.